All right, let's just jump right in, shall we? We're going to tackle two of the biggest questions you can possibly ask. What is consciousness, and do we actually have free will? Our guide on this little journey is the philosopher Dan Dennett. And trust me, his ideas are going to make you rethink everything you thought you knew.
So Dennett kicks things off with this absolute bombshell of a quote. The idea here is that what you're experiencing right now as your mind, it's not some direct live feed of what your brain is doing. Nope. It's more like a highlights reel, you know? It's a carefully edited summary. And that idea alone, well, it completely challenges how we think about ourselves from the get-go. And that, of course, immediately raises a massive question. I mean, think about it. If your internal experience is just an edited version, what does that say about the reality you feel like you're living in right this second? Is it all just fake? Is it an illusion?
Okay, to answer that, we first have to look at how we normally think about our own minds. You know, that gut feeling we all have about how it works. Because, according to Dennett, that feeling, it might be a grand illusion.
I mean, most of us have this feeling, right? That there's a little me sitting somewhere inside my head, like in a private movie theater. And this little me is just watching the show of my thoughts and sounds and feelings as they scroll by on a big mental screen. It feels like there's a single audience member, you. Well, there's a name for this idea, the Cartesian theater. And Dennett's #1 goal is to convince you that this theater, it's empty. It doesn't exist.
So, okay, if it's not a private movie theater, then what is it? What is consciousness? Well, this is where Dennett introduces a really powerful metaphor that just changes the whole game. He says to think of it as the brain's user interface.
Seriously, think about your smartphone screen. What do you see? You see these nice, clean, simple icons, right? It's all super intuitive. You tap something and it just works. You don't have to have a clue how any of it is actually happening behind the scenes.
But now, think about what's going on underneath that clean screen. It's chaos. There are millions of lines of code, complex circuits all firing away. It's this messy, incomprehensible world of pure hardware that you, the user, never, ever see. And there it is. That's the perfect analogy for what Dennett is talking about. Your consciousness isn't the raw, chaotic, messy neural activity. It's the user interface for all that messy stuff. It's this brilliantly simplified version that lets you, the system, control this incredibly complex machine, your body, without having to understand every last detail.
So when you hear Dennett call this a user illusion, don't get the wrong idea. He's not saying it's a trick or that it's fake. Not at all. He means it's a brilliantly designed simplification. It's a tool that helps you operate. You're not the victim of this illusion, you're the beneficiary. It's designed to help you, not fool you.
Okay, so if our consciousness is just the user interface, how do we look under the hood? How can scientists actually get a peek at the messy hardware that's running the whole show?
Well, for a long time, the only tool we had was the inside view, just thinking about our own feelings and thoughts. But that's kind of like trying to understand your phone's processor by just staring at the screen. You can't do it. To really understand the hardware, you need the outside view. You need the objective tools of science.
And lucky for us, scientists have a whole bag of tricks for this. We're talking MRI scans to see the brain in action, CAT scans, even wild stuff like optogenetics, where they can literally use light to activate specific brain circuits. And all this data is helping build new models, like the global neuronal workspace theory, which is basically the idea that consciousness is like a shared bulletin board where different parts of the brain can post important updates for the whole system to see.
All right, so that's the user interface model of consciousness. Now let's take that same style of thinking, that same way of reframing the problem, and apply it to that other huge mystery, free will.
The first thing Dennett says we have to do is throw out the popular, almost magical idea of free will. You know the one I'm talking about, the belief that your decisions are somehow exempt from the normal cause and effect of the universe. He argues that if that's your definition of free will, then yeah, it's totally an illusion.
So here's where people get really confused, according to Dennett. We mix up the idea of causation with the idea of control. Look, everything in the universe is caused by something else, sure, but that doesn't mean nothing is controlled. A leaf blowing in the wind is caused, but it has no control. A drone, on the other hand, is also subject to the laws of physics, but it is controlled. It's actively guiding itself toward a goal. That's a huge difference.
You can actually think of this as a spectrum of control, right? On one end, you've got something totally uncontrolled, like those leaves.
In the middle, you've got something that's controlled from the outside, like a drone being flown by a pilot. But then you get to the really interesting stuff, self-controlled systems. Think of a shark hunting. It's an autonomous agent, guiding itself based on what's happening around it. And this idea of self-control is what brings us right to Dennett's really powerful and frankly much more useful definition of free will. And the best part, it's a version of free will that actually works with science, not against it.
So what is it? For Dennett, free will is responsible autonomy. It's not some magic spark. It's the incredibly sophisticated, real-world ability to monitor yourself, to think about your choices, and to control your own actions in a way that makes you a moral agent, someone we can hold responsible. Now this leads to what might be the most mind-bending takeaway of all. This kind of free will, it's not something you're just born with. It is something you achieve. It's something you have to earn and develop over time. And you know what? Our society already gets this intuitively. I mean, we don't hold a 5-year-old to the same standard as an adult, do we? There's a reason we have milestones for responsibility, like getting a driver's license at 16 or the right to vote at 18. We already know that this kind of self-control, this free will, is something that you grow into. So we'll end with this final, really provocative question. If free will is an achievement, not a gift, who gets to decide when you have it? It completely changes the conversation, doesn't it? The question is no longer if we have free will. The real questions become, how do we build it in ourselves and others? How do we recognize it? And what does it really truly mean to be in control?